Welcome to the West Wing Companion. This issue, we talked to two prosecutors who received unexpected gifts. One turned a devastating legal loss into positive change and a lifelong personal connection. And we talked with another prosecutor about how his childhood baseball team's dream season helped him carry the heavy burden of an illness. We start today with Jay Boyarsky, the Chief Assistant District Attorney in our office. About 18 years ago, a judge dismissed Jay's case against a man for molesting his girlfriend's young daughter. The judge ruled there was not enough evidence to supersede the statute of limitations on the 8-year-old case and dismissed it. Jay was deeply disappointed, but worked with Maricela, the young victim, and a local legislator to change the law, making it easier to prosecute child molesters. Last year, the law changed even more dramatically. Welcome.
Hi.
Why do we have statute of limitations? What's their purpose?
Well, I think the philosophical basis is that after some period of time passes, it would be unfair to the perpetrator of a crime or the alleged perpetrator of a crime to go after them because in order for them to be able to defend themselves after a passage of time, it would be unfair. The evidence would have deteriorated, arguably, or just the overall equities of the situation are such that people should not have to live under a shadow of suspicion or a shadow of fear, even if it is a fear of appropriate accountability, because along with the attempt to find accountability, the person would have a need to have to defend themselves. And there's some feeling that if there's a long period of time, then they're not really able to adequately defend themselves.
So where's the balance? Is it based on the seriousness of the crime?
Well, that's the obvious question, because there is no statute of limitations for murder. That's the most serious crime. But I guess society determines that because that's such a serious crime, we're going to let people who commit that crime live under that shadow. Now, if someone didn't really commit the murder, though, and they're charged 40 years later for a murder they didn't commit, well, that would seem pretty unfair to that person's ability to be able to defend themselves. So it's always a balancing test. And over the last several decades, the statute of limitations for different crimes have really varied. Sometimes it's 1 year for a misdemeanor, drunk driving. If you're not prosecuted with 1 year, then it's too late. But for murder, it's never too late. And for typical standard felonies, historically, it's been 3 years. These are somewhat arbitrary figures.
That was my question was, how do they come up with these time limitations?
I don't know exactly how the first statute of limitation was set. I mean, perhaps it's because for a misdemeanor, some of the punishments are 6 months or at the most 1 year. That's the punishment. So it seems like perhaps there was a parallel that the statute of limitation should be as long as the potential punishment for the crime. Maybe that's the rationale. Recently,
the law regarding this limitation around sex assaults was radically changed in this state. I know you were very pleased at the outcome of that. Is there more to be done on statute of limitations?
I don't think there is in California. Certainly not as it relates to sexual assault. I think there's 7 or 8 other states that took the lead before California and eliminated the statute of limitations for these types of sexual assault crimes. I think we appropriately view ourselves as leaders on policies and ideas in California. So we were a little late here, but there's other states that certainly need to do this.
The Bill Cosby case might be some of the impetus behind this?
It's often the case that in order for there to be an appropriate law or a new policy change or some great societal change, something needs to catch the public's imagination, right? And so the Bill Cosby situation brought a lot of attention back to this issue at the right time. But remember, we had the Catholic Church scandal of pedophilia. We've had issues with athletics, USA Swimming, now USA Gymnastics. We've had all sorts of youth athletic scandals over a period of years. And so it's hard to know exactly what brings change to these sorts of situations. I mean, look at the situation with marriage equality now. And 10 or 15 years ago, no one, not even the most progressive people who would want to see this happen, no one would have thought that in 10 years we would have marriage equality in this country. So why did something like that happen? Well, it kind of had to do with, didn't some of it have to do with the show Glee?
Right.
Didn't it have to do with what Ellen did on her TV show?
Right.
It wasn't Modern Family. It wasn't, some of these things happen in pop culture, they happen in society. It's not academics, it's not necessarily judges, it's not politicians. It's sort of like, what's that saying? If the people start leading, the leaders will follow, or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what it took, but clearly the Cosby case had a lot to do with the statute of limitations for sex crimes. Because I've been working on it for 18 years, and it would run out of steam at some point in the process all the time.
When you were first looking at trying to change the law, you looked at this young girl and saw something in her that would help you accomplish that. What did you see, and what's she doing these days?
Well, this process didn't start with me thinking, how can I change the statute of limitations in the state of California for raping a child? And when I first met Maricela, I certainly didn't have an idea or an eye that she would play such a huge role in my life or in this legal issue. I was just sitting on the 6th floor on the sex team, and I was assigned a case, and Maricela was the victim, right. And the crime had happened about 7 years prior, and so there was a statute of limitations issue, and so I just had to figure out how to convict the guy for raping the victim. And then, as you know, through a series of unexpected twists and turns, the judge dismissed the case. I believe he didn't apply the law reasonably or fairly, and he didn't realize that his decision would be with prejudice, but nonetheless, sometimes bad things happen in court, and something really bad happened in court. And that was it. Case over, nothing more to do, but it was really just hard to accept. And I may not have gone on this journey if one of the jurors, a guy named Dean Chowning, an engineer, said, you got to change the law. I think by that point in my career, I was somewhat cynical and jaded enough to know you don't just change the law. And when something bad happens in court, changing the law is rarely going to be what the appropriate thing to do is. Right. But in this case, changing the law was the right thing to do. But I didn't have a big dream of let's get rid of the statute of limitations. I thought, let's just tweak the law, because that was the problem. So even I didn't realize that the right thing to do was to get rid of the statute of limitations for raping children, although that is, and that would have been the right thing to do then, but that was too big of a thing to hope for. So.
But you saw something in this young victim that could help you accomplish this, maybe not this gigantic goal, but
right.
a
Just
small,
this small
goal, right?
Right.
What did you see?
Well, I saw someone who was articulate and courageous and strong, who testified in her trial credibly and wonderfully. And I knew from limited legislative work I had done that it takes something to get people's attention. And a prosecutor who just lost a case is not going to get the legislators' attention to a problem. Just like it took this story about Bill Cosby and 50 women coming forward to say, look what this guy did to me and there's no justice. That's what it took. And so I knew if we were going to try to modestly change the law, that was our goal, it couldn't be just me. And it really wouldn't be a juror, Dean Chowning, going with me, and it wouldn't have been the DA, George Kennedy, or CDAA saying, yeah, this is a required change. Because then you're just talking about dry philosophical debates and it becomes partisan. So I knew it would take something or someone. And here was a girl, 17 years old at this point in time, who was willing to stand up publicly. She'd already done it in court, but she was thinking, if it means going on camera, doing a press conference and saying, I was raped, and I was unable to even have a jury decide the guilt or innocence of the person who raped me because of this crazy statute of limitations, this bad law. I knew that was really compelling. And not all victims, especially sexual assault victims, are strong enough or able to, or willing, understandably, to want to do something like that. And I wasn't sure if Maricela wanted to do that.
How did Maricela change you, if she did?
Well, my relationship with Maricela, now I've known her 17 or 18 years, and we've stayed in touch throughout that period of time intermittently, and then we reconnect, and it's just like we never lost contact. And so now, over this long period of time, she's changed me a lot, especially having just met her in October in Las Vegas, where she lives, and seeing that she's now a wife and a mother of 3 kids, and her kids are pretty much the same age as my kids, which is a little bit weird because I had kids at a much older age than she did, but her concerns about her life are so similar to the concerns in my life that I'm going through. And that was a really weird shift, because when I first met her, she was just a kid,
right,
and she was a victim, and I was trying to get justice
right,
for her. And now she's in such a different phase of her life. And I didn't have kids when I first met Maricela, so a lot has changed with me, and I see her so much more now as a peer. I can relate to her, and I think she can relate to me much more as equals, and that is really neat, and it's really interesting. But it's also really weird, because when you meet someone and they're a certain age and you form a bond with them, in your mind's eye, they're always that age, right?
Right.
And she still looks the same. She's just very beautiful, and her face is the same, and she doesn't have any wrinkles now. She's still very young. What is she, 35 years old or something? To me, she's still really young.
The way you describe her and the way you describe what her life is like, it almost feels like there was a little justice there in the end after all.
Well, there's a certain vindication or justice that's something that she wanted and worked so hard for 17 years ago has now finally come to pass. There's certainly that. We joked, hey, overnight success. Only took 17 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Steve Dick.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
No longer a lovable loser. He loves the Chicago Cubs still, of course, but as most people know, the team won the World Series last year, breaking its, is it 108 years record of falling short?
108 years, yes.
Yeah, a little longer than your lifetime. For those of us who struggled through the smell of garlic fries watching Giants games and videos of fans doing the Dead Bernie dance in Oakland, describe a game at Wrigley for me.
Well, Wrigley Field, of course, has a long history. It's the last ballpark in America that didn't have lights. And I still think going to a day game in Wrigley is the best way to watch a ball game. You hop on the L, you get off the train by the stadium, you walk in, and everyone around the stadium has already started partying, getting ready for the game. You go in, and the crowd is, by the first pitch, ready to go. And it's in Chicago in the summer, it's warm and it's beautiful, and it is just a great place to watch a ball game.
Yeah, even the ivy sort of adds to the sort of the experience?
All of it does. I mean, you have the Ivies. You're in the middle of downtown. So right across the street are apartments, and everywhere around you have people walking around, and you have people who are living there. And in fact, across the street, there are people watching the games from high rises that they've put up on the apartment buildings. And it's just a very unique way to watch a ball game.
That's great. You need a new nickname now.
We're going to go as the...
Wait, I'm thinking the insufferable winners might be one, right? The one-hit wonders would be another one. So how do you think this is going to change your self-identity as a Cubs fan?
Well, it's been about 108 days since we last won a World Series. And so instead of counting years now, we're counting days. And I get asked a lot, do you care if you win this year, go back to back? And I can honestly say, it doesn't matter if we ever win another game again. It was just great to win in 2016. So yeah, we can be the insufferable winners from now on. We're okay with that. You can call us whatever you want.
You just won, I'll put it in this sort of reductive way, you just won an improbable victory for yourself. Can you tell us what news you recently received?
Well, a while ago I was diagnosed with cancer, and I found out last week that I am now cancer-free.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Spectacular.
Thank you.
Now, as your prize for both things, I want you to sing an a cappella version of Go Cubs Go for our audience.
Well, first of all, to the audience, I apologize up front. All right, here we go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Cubs are gonna win today. Go Cubs go, go Cubs go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Cubs are gonna win today.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Baseball season's underway. Well, you better get ready for a